take it to the top. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it high. We got to keep it moving. Make sure that we take it to the top. We got to keep it moving. We got to never stop. We got to keep it moving. Make sure that we take it to the top.
Hey guys, I'm the Black Pearl and welcome to the latest episode of My Future, My Career.
And I am Zola. My Future, My Career is proudly brought to you by Nedbank.
Now this Nedbank initiative is aimed at equipping you with tools to make informed choices when it comes to choosing your career.
We'll take an in-depth look at different careers, what they entail, and we chat to industry experts in different career fields.
Now do you always seem to get yourself in and out of every argument?
Then you might just make a good lawyer, and that's exactly what we'll be discussing on today's show.
Now whether it's prosecuting alleged criminals, defending the accused, bringing about new laws, or negotiating billion-rand agreements, there are a variety of jobs in the legal profession.
Today we'll chat to those in the legal industry who can answer your questions legitimately.
So Zola, what are we waiting for?
Hey bro, let's get to it.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
We kick off with a special message from the man himself, Mike Brown, CEO of Nedbank.
If you plan carefully, set goals for yourself, and then work hard to achieve these, you can be anything you want to be.
And later we talk to the Deputy Director for the National Department of Justice and Constitutional Development.
In government, you are practically exposed to all areas of law.
Plus, we give you some top tips from the fairy godmother.
What I do is I teach people how to turn their dreams into reality.
All that and more on the show today.
Do you have big dreams of pursuing your ideal career but don't have the financial means?
Or check out the bursary info in your booklet to find out the many ways in which you can get funds to study.
Let's get straight into it. Check it out.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
Hello, my name is Mike Brown, and I'm the CEO or Chief Executive Officer of Nedbank. And I'm here today to talk to you about careers. Selecting a career for yourself can be a very confusing process. Now that you are in secondary school, you are expected to begin carving a path for your future. The difficulty is that at this point in your life, some of you might not have enough information or experience to make the right choice, and careers themselves are changing rapidly as technology evolves. I was fortunate enough to pursue a career I felt passionately about, but I was in a way lucky to start down the right path. Influenced more by what some friends were doing and what my parents thought than through any formal career guidance. After school, I completed a Bachelor of Commerce degree, followed by a diploma in accountancy, and finally qualified as a chartered accountant with Deloitte in the early 1990s. After 17 years in the banking industry, I have achieved a milestone in my career, to have the privilege of leading a proud organization that traces its history back to the 1830s. I say fortunate because I believe that I am the exception, not the rule. To help you become the exception and not the rule, we have launched the My Future, My Career initiative. Through a series of interviews with industry professionals and educational specialists, we hope to paint a clear picture of a wide range of careers available to you, so you don't just follow your friends like I did. To complement the series, we will also be providing each of you with a booklet containing national curriculum information, career information, places to study, and bursary information. These tools will assist you in making an informed choice that will point you in the right direction to match your skills, aptitudes, and passions to market opportunities and get you started on your selected path. Nedbank's slogan is "Make things happen." This applies not only to the bank, but to each of you in your own lives. So use the valuable information you will receive today to plan out your own future and make it happen. If you plan carefully, set goals for yourself, and then work hard to achieve these, you can be anything you want to be. Take every opportunity you have and don't be afraid to be ambitious. Who knows, you may even be the CEO of Nedbank one day, or maybe you have already set your goals even higher.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
If law for you is not about glamorous court dramas, but fighting for justice and seeing a change in your society, then working within the Department of Justice may be just your thing.
With us now is Anthony Canham, the Deputy Director of the National Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. He is responsible for, amongst other things, managing strategy, skills development, learnerships, and internships. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks.
You good?
I'm fine. Thanks.
Good, good. Now, we mentioned that you work for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Department. We want to know, what is the main mandate of your department?
Well, the main mandate of our department is access to justice for all. That means everybody in South Africa, if you can call yourself a South African citizen, access to justice for all.
Nice. And what legal careers are available within the department?
Wow, a whole range of exciting ones. The aim of the department is obviously to attract the young. So there's quite a range of those available. Amongst them is that, well, obviously you have to, when you finish your matric, you go to the university, you get your LLB degree, and with that you can go in a range of possibilities for that in the department. You have those that say, I'm not interested in standing in front of a court, I don't want to be a lawyer. Well, then when we offer those internships for 1 year to become a legal secretary, if you only have your matric and there's no money to study further, you can work in the court on issues like maintenance, counseling. You can work in the master's office on issues like estates, wills, deceased estates, and then obviously we have the policy sectors, and we also have international relations. All those areas speaks to legal aspects within the training field. And then the most exciting one is the one that we have over 2 years for candidate attorneys. Those are the ones that now really want to become admitted attorneys. They come into our state attorney office. We offer them a 2-year contract. In the first year, they'll have to do compulsory, the practical law school, 9,500 rand. Guess what? We pay for that. Then they have to do their board exams. We give them 4 chances to pass their board exams. We pay for all of that. And then when they're ready, we take them to court. They present their case. And once the judge is fine with the case, they get admitted. And then they become an admitted attorney. Once they have attained admission, we then take them on, still in the internship, but as a boost for doing well, we boost the monthly salary 3 times fold.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful. Now, what would you say, what sort of training does the department offer? Do you still need to train with the department or through the department, or does one need to go through an educational institution?
Well, obviously they have to get the LLB at university level. If they want to become an admitted attorney, they have to go the 2 years, which is practical law school and board exams. But amongst all of those that I just told you about, what we as the department do, obviously in any organization, you find that when those interns are completing their internship, you might not have vacancies at the time to absorb them. You might not have an offer. So what I do is that we give them a whole range of skills. Amongst them, the National Credit Act, service excellence training that I train themselves. Because you find when they're in the university tells you about the legal things. They don't teach you how to treat a difficult client. They don't tell you how to present yourself on the phone. They don't tell you about your stresses and your emotional intelligence. So I do all that training with them. We do those who want to go on their own businesses, we give them entrepreneurial skills. And the latest boost to that is that we give them their driver's licenses as well.
Really?
So when they leave us and we can't offer them anything, I am happy that we have built a range of skills within them that they can go out there in South Africa, market themselves, and obviously get employment.
Nice. Now, how can learners apply to get bursaries from the department?
Well, at this stage, we as a department don't offer bursaries. The bursaries available in the department is only for permanent staff. But in terms of the climate in South Africa, your department have to belong to a SETA, a Sector Education Training Authority. In our field, it is the SASETA. So they get bursaries from the SASETA. They obviously send their applications to my office. I present it to the SETA. And if they are successful, they get on an annual basis 40,000 Rand, which they can use towards their studies mainly for their books and their tuition.
Yeah, and does the department offer ongoing training for its employees?
Yes, we do. We do. The minute they become, let's say they complete the internship, so the internship they've done extremely well. We then decide out of the 20, for example, we will absorb 15 of them Obviously, then you become permanent on the establishment. And then obviously that question that you asked me earlier on, now that you're permanent, you can then access our bursaries in the department. And obviously we then draw up a development plan for you that takes you through your career in the department.
Now, it sounds like a busy department, Anthony. I just want to know, does it stand on its own, or what is the relationship with the private law firms? Is the collaborated, or does everyone do their own thing?
Well, in the last 2 years, it has become very evident that the exposure in terms of the legal field have to be expanded. Over the last 2 years, we've gone into beautiful partnerships with big law firms like Weber Wenzel, Hahn & Hahn, Bowman Gilfillan, where we say that the intern still is our interns, the department's interns. We pay your monthly stipend, we pay for all the development, but we sort of second or place you at the private law firm. So for 6 months, you get the exposure, what it is like to practice law in government. For the other 6 months, you get an exposure, what it is to practice law in one of the private law firms. And you have sort of 2 worlds of legal experience. So should you complete, you can decide, I want to go and work in the private law sector, or I want to stay in the public government sector. And it's worked very well. We have a service level agreement with them, but to manage that, I have monthly committee meetings with those law firms, just to sort of from an outside point of view, see that they are looking nicely after my little babies.
Yeah. Now, why should a newly qualified lawyer come work with you in your department as opposed to working at a private law firm?
In government, you are practically exposed to all areas of law. We're not like Bowman Gilfillan that would just look at commercial or just competition or just blacklisting. Everything that comes through the doors, that the attorney must handle. And remember, we are the only Department of Justice in South Africa. So we look at everything, whether it's legislation, whether it's policy, international relations, and obviously the other government departments, they must send their legal aspects to our department for advice or consultation or even fighting for those cases in court. So they practically handles everything. I always say, come to the government department as a new lawyer and work in that environment for at least 3-4 years. After that, you can go to the private law firm.
Yeah.
It's always the private law firm that recruit from us. After that 2 or 3 years, your exposure is just very broad.
Now, we want to know, how does one become a judge? I mean, is there a course that you need to go through? Do you need to study? Or do you just get nominated?
No, obviously you start by the basics, and we've covered the basics throughout. And then, obviously, to become a judge, from what I know, is that, yes, you get nominated, but you almost become some kind of an intern. Because you get assigned to a judge, and that judge practically groom you for the bench. So it's a similar process, but it's a process of a very high level, because your salary remains the same, but it's a process that your personality are being screened, your years of experience, how far have you reached, your achievements in law, and all those are part of your makeup that are being considered. And then obviously somebody nominates you as seeing you good to be going on the bench, and then you go through a whole series of very high level training. And then obviously you get exposed to the bench, a few lighter cases for you to be exposed to, and then obviously if they're happy with that, then you get nominated to serve on the bench. You leave this post to take up that post in a very different bracket.
So advice to learners watching this right now and they're interested in studying law.
My advice to them is, we still don't have enough lawyers in South Africa. It's a very interesting area to venture in. So yeah, go out there, go and study law, and you can imagine a career that you're going to study for, that you know when you finish, there is definitely a career path for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a
It's
pleasure.
been awesome.
Lovely to be here.
To keep it moving, make sure that we take it to the top.
Now, let's see if you can solve this.
Is the following statement true or false?
An advocate and an attorney are one and the same thing. The answer coming up just a little later.
Keep it moving, make sure that we take it to the top.
After the break, do you want to pursue a career in law and change the world in the process? Well, we chat to an advocate and a legal aid representative about what it takes.
Yes, all of that right here on My Future, My Career. Brought to you by Nedbank. You don't want to miss it.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
Our course wasn't perfectly trimmed. There were no greenkeepers, or sprinklers, or even grass for that matter. On our course, the hazards were real. Some might say it wasn't a course at all. But when you've played where we have, you know the true value of those who can make things happen. Nedbank.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
Before the break, we wanted to know whether the following statement was true or false. An advocate and an attorney are one and the same thing.
And I've got the answer. And the answer is false, okay? An advocate is a lawyer who's allowed to present a case in court, whereas an attorney will give legal advice to his clients but does not represent them in court.
Nice one, Pearl. But up next, a senior state advocate. Let's check it out.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
Advocate Gcaleka's nail-biting job description includes prosecuting criminal offences, writing important legal opinions and confidential documents, and arguing criminal appeals in the highest level of court.
Yes, that's correct. Now, Advocate Gcaleka has also been involved in prosecuting high-profile cases like the Buyisiwe rape trial, as well as the ongoing State versus Agliotti trial. Now, if justice is what you're after, Advocate Gcaleka will be able to tell you how you could get it. Welcome.
Welcome, Advocate.
Thank you, Zola and Paul, and thank you for having me here.
Only a pleasure. Now, to begin with, we want to know what is the legal system or how is it like in South Africa in respect to criminal cases?
The legal system in South Africa is mostly influenced by the Roman Dutch law, which we commonly refer to as the common law. It's static. Actually, there is no legal system that goes the same way on and on. It is influenced by the material conditions at the time, the legislation of the country, cases that are being decided on by the higher courts. Criminal cases actually start when a crime has been committed on the scene. Police would attend that particular scene, conduct certain investigations. Upon arrest and finding the suspect, they will take the case to the prosecutor, who is employed by the National Prosecuting Authority. It is from there that the prosecutor decides whether the matter must be placed on the roll. Is there a charge that that particular suspect can be charged with? And then from there, the matter is taken to court.
Now, you work as an advocate for the National Prosecution Authority, the NPA. What is the NPA and what is its mandate?
The National Prosecuting Authority is an institute of government created by the Constitution, Act 108 of 1998. And its mandate, basically, it is to institute and conduct criminal proceedings on behalf of the state and carry out any function which is in line with conducting and instituting criminal proceedings. It also has the mandate to discontinue criminal proceedings from time to time, depending on the merits of the case at the time.
Now, you are an advocate. How is an advocate different from an ordinary lawyer, and what are your responsibilities?
An advocate, you have to be a lawyer, should have studied law, have the necessary legal degree, and you must also be admitted by the High Court of South Africa as an advocate. You actually make an application to the High Court, which you normally refer to as an ex parte application, which it is a single application by a single party that allows you to then practice as an advocate. You practice in the High Court, the Supreme Court of Appeal, the Constitutional Court, and any other lower court. However, a lawyer, it's anyone who has a legal degree and who is trained in law and not necessarily admitted as an advocate or as an attorney. A lawyer can basically give legal advice, work in any other legal companies and advise and so forth, but cannot appear in court if they are not admitted to do such, like an attorney and an advocate. My responsibilities is I've briefly stipulated include appearing before the court, writing legal opinions, doing appeal matters, doing review matters, and so forth.
Now, advocate, if I wanted to try out a case in court, right, like all those guys I see on TV, which they get me so excited, do I have to be an advocate?
No, not necessarily. You can be an attorney. You either become admitted as an attorney or as an advocate to appear before court.
Yeah. Now, what kind of jobs are available for advocates? I mean, do they have to work for the NPA?
Not necessarily. NPA, of course, does employ advocates whom we refer to as senior state advocates or state advocates plainly. You can also work for private practice. You can work for any other government department as a litigant or as a legal advisor. You can open up your own business. You can go into consultancy, work for these tax companies, work for companies like Gobodo, KPMG, and so forth.
Now, let's go back to you. Let's describe your journey to becoming an advocate.
Wow. Well, it has its ups and downs. I started off as a prosecutor at the Soweto Magistrates Court. I had just graduated from university, had my LLB degree. I was fortunate immediately after the aspirant prosecutors program. I was then admitted to appear in the regional court. I prosecuted mainly sexual offenses. That's what I specialized in. After a year and a couple of months, I decided I was getting a little bit bored. I wanted to do something new. I then applied to prosecute in the High Court. I then became admitted as an advocate of the High Court of South Africa in 2006. And luckily, I was then employed in the South Gauteng High Court as a junior state advocate. In 2008, I then became a little bit bored and wanted to step higher up the ladder. And I was then employed as a senior state advocate, which I currently am. It has not been an easy journey. You get a lot of challenges, and of course, the higher you go, the more difficult it becomes. You just need the right energy, the enthusiasm, and the creativity.
Yeah, but I want to know, is it a rewarding career?
Well, many people describe rewarding as, does it pay well? And yes, it does. It's not bad at all, but however, we all have to start somewhere. When it starts off, of course, you struggle a bit there and there. But the more experience you acquire, the higher you go, then you become satisfied. But to me, rewarding at the end of the day is going home and say, have you made a difference in somebody's life? And I believe if you are a dedicated advocate, you strive to excel, and interacting with that ordinary person and knowing that, especially in the NPA, we are mostly confronted with people who come from poor backgrounds, who do not have a clue of what's happening in the legal system, and assisting those people, and most of them are victims of crime, making a difference out of their lives and ensuring that they go home and say, I have received an excellent service from the NPA. It is much rewarding for me.
Now, are there any negative aspects of your career?
Well, yes, there are. As I've just said, that we mainly work with victims of crime. Those people come highly emotionally imbalanced. Then you don't only become a lawyer to those people, you also become a social worker, you become a psychologist to those people. You take their burden, basically. And at the end of the day, you are human beings. You don't do your work and leave it at home. It happens that you carry it with you home, you know. And that's, I think, it's the worst time, because you think about that person and think, how much better can I do to assist this person? So those are the times when you really have to, you know, be professional and pull yourself together.
Yeah. Now, Zola mentioned that when he sees it on TV, it's also exciting.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to tell us about some of the most exciting cases you've worked on?
Well, you've just mentioned two. One
Yes.
I will not dwell into because it is a case that is still sub judice, but obviously I will share with you the Buyisiwe case. Buyisiwe was a young woman who was raped, and Buyisiwe was actually one in a million victims who was actually a bit lucky, who was assisted by an NGO called POWER. POWER worked very closely with us as the NPA and actually portrayed a picture that is very important for society to become a part of the legal system to ensure an excelled and more vibrant legal system. Wisiwe was emotionally distressed. She was going through a very tough time. There were some problems with the legal representative of the accused in that matter, and the matter had to start all over again, which we called starting de novo. Then the matter was then referred to the High Court, where I then became seized with the matter as the advocate who was going to prosecute the matter. As I earlier said, Wisiwe was very much emotionally in stress and was not an easy witness to work with. I had to become a friend and a sister to Wisiwe in order for Wisiwe to be able to cooperate, trust me, and open up to me. It was not an easy journey at all. The NPA also had not only to become a national prosecuting service, but a caring one to involve other government departments to try and assist this particular person. But the exciting aspect of it is that we dealt with a lot of areas of law. Precedence was created from that particular case, and we worked with a judge who actually understood the circumstances of society, because it's very important that whoever presides over a case understands the material conditions in order to assist her or him to come to a just decision at the end of the case. We did luckily get a conviction in that particular case, and the accused was sent to direct imprisonment. It was quite a fulfilling case, even though we did not get what we had asked for, which was a life sentence. But however, the fact that they had to feel how life is in prison, that gave us a bit of fulfillment.
Yeah, wow.
Such an amazing story.
Yeah, an
Wow.
amazing end as well.
Yeah, now it sounds like you are helping a lot of victims, and do you believe that you are helping us fight this huge thing that we call crime in our country? Do you feel that you are making a difference as an advocate?
Well, yes. Every crime goes through the NPA. And as an advocate, as a prosecutor, you have to make your bit up until the end. You actually even guide investigations. And what instruction you give to that police officer to assist them to come up with investigations which would actually pinpoint a particular suspect successfully and ensure conviction, it comes with all the dedication, all the time that you put into it. And as an advocate, I strongly believe that I play quite a pivotal role in that.
Yeah, well, and if somebody's out there and they want to get into your field, they want to become advocates, what advice do you have for them?
Well, it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
It's a dedication. I think from high school, you have to work hard, but as well, you must have the passion for it, because if you do not have the passion for it, a few years down the line, you become bored and you don't understand why you are in that career. I always say it must actually be a calling, so that you don't only perform your duties, but you perform your duties with excellence. So the advice through studies is you have to be a person who loves your books. It includes a lot of studying. After matric, you have to pass with matric exemption, enrolled into university, study LLB. I think now they no longer have B Juris and B Proc. You go straight into studying LLB. Venture into the legal fraternity, into different fields. But of course, because I'm in the NPA, I would highly advise people to come into the NPA. It offers a lot of experience.
Oh, wow.
Advocate, thank you so much for your time. We learned a lot.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So you're not sure if you've still got the nerves and determination for this career? Then consider this from the Fairy Godmother.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
My name is Donna McCallum, and I am a fantastically fabulous and magical fairy godmother. In each of these episodes, I will be covering one of the 10 tips in more detail. And just so that you don't miss out, here are the 10 tips. Tip number 1, be authentic. Tip 2, play to your strengths. Tip 3, have fun. Do what you love and love what you do. Tip 4, it's your choice. Tip 5, learn to learn. Tip number 6 is dream big. Tip number 7, take action. Tip number 8, overcome your fears. Tip 9, build support around you. And tip 10, gratitude. Today's tip is all about taking action. To make things happen in your life, for your future career, for your dreams to come true, you need to take action. As you become an adult, you will quickly realize that no one is going to do things for you in life. You need to do things for yourself and to take action to create what you want. Nothing happens to people who sit back and watch in life. You get to decide in your life. Do you want to be a spectator or do you want to be a player? When it comes to career choices, get clear on your dreams, your passions, and your talents, and then go out and take action. Learn all you can about the jobs that match those talents and strengths. Just watching this movie, you'll learn a lot, but you can also take action by going onto the internet. Google the profession and read about what it's all about. Speak to your teachers to ask them about careers. Find people in your community that do the job and speak to them. Visit universities and technicons. Ask them for information. Learn all about the profession you want to pursue and whether it's right for you. And if it doesn't feel right, then go out and take more action and learn about another career. Don't make a career choice because it's the only one you know about or because your friends are doing it. Take action, explore, discover, and find out about this incredible world of possibilities that are out there waiting for you. Just do it.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
With us now is Martha Mbele. Now, Ms. Mbele completed her BProc degree at the University of the North, lectured at the Technikon Free State, and then went on to coordinate the Thusanang Advice Centre. Now, in this position, she offered legal advice and educated community members on human rights and gender equality.
She's now the current Regional Operations Executive of Legal Aid SA in the Free State and Northwest region, and she is serving in various leadership positions within the legal fraternity in the Free State. Please welcome
Ms. Mbele, welcome, and thank you so much for travelling all this way to come chat with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I want to know why a good legal system is very important in the country.
A good legal system is important because it assists the country to uphold law and order and sustain rule of law. Where there's lawlessness, despondency breeds, and people would eventually take law into their hands if they don't trust the legal system. So poor legal systems will eventually lead to people taking law into their hands, and it will eventually breed lawlessness. So we need to uphold good legal system to sustain the rule of law.
Now, Martha, tell us exactly what is legal aid and why is it important?
Legal Aid South Africa derives its mandate from the Legal Aid Act of 1969 and from the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and other legal instruments such as the Children's Act. What we mainly do is to offer legal representation to those who cannot afford legal representation on their own, and those are the indigent and the poor.
Now, Ms. Mbele, is this part of government?
No, Legal Aid South Africa is not part of government. Though we receive our funding from Treasury through the Department of Justice, it is an independent and autonomous institution that has board of directors who are accountable to Parliament.
Now, what is the relationship between Legal Aid SA and the National Prosecuting Authority?
The relationship between Legal Aid SA and NPA is that we all are officers of courts and we all have a mandate to dispense justice. Although NPA brings people to court, they charge them, those that have been accused of crimes. We defend the rights of those that have been accused of crimes. So in short, we all are operating in the same arena, that is the courtroom, as opponents, of course.
And do you guys operate all around the country?
Yes. We have more than 100 offices all over the country in all 9 provinces, and we are present at all courts in the country. Currently, we are operating from 64 justice centers in all 9 provinces and 64 satellite offices in all 9 provinces. And we have just established a call center now as part of extending our services for civil cases where we render legal advice immediately over the telephone.
Now, does Legal Aid South Africa employ attorneys and advocates?
Yes, we do employ attorneys and advocates, but we employ those advocates that have served pupillage and passed their bar exam. For the advocates who did not pass pupillage, we only employ those that have had experience, either as who have practiced before at least 5 years experience, either as prosecutors or gained experience in litigation somewhere else.
Now, what made you want to work for Legal Aid as opposed to working for a private law firm?
I started my career in a private law firm, and I worked in that environment for 5 years before joining Legal Aid SA. At some stage in my life, I worked for an NGO, and that gave me an opportunity to come very close to the poor and the most vulnerable in our society. And that made me understand their plight. And after having worked for this NGO, I had to decide, and I realized that my services are needed more at Legal Aid SA than any other institution.
Mara Miss Mbele, is it rewarding work?
It is. It's so rewarding to know that you have just assisted someone who has been accused of committing a crime falsely, and that you've just assisted someone who has been illegally evicted or a child whose rights have been infringed. And what actually gives more satisfaction is that when you go back home, you realize and you're satisfied that you could make a difference and make some contribution to improve other people's well-being.
Now, it also sounds to me that it could be emotionally challenging. So what personal qualities would one need to work for Legal Aid?
A person who would actually be suitable to work for Legal Aid, you must have passion for justice, and you must want and like to work with the poor and the needy. You must have interest in upholding the rule of law and have interest in human rights and public interest law.
Now, does Legal Aid SA handle any type of cases, or do you only focus on specific areas?
We do both criminal and civil cases. But in our civil cases, because of the lack of funding, we only assist in situations where children, women, and the landless are involved. That is in situations where we know that the rights of the children, the rights of the women, and the rights of the landless are going to be affected. That is where we pitch in and assist in those matters. But mainly in civil cases, we assist in family law matters, in labor law matters, and children matters, mainly.
Now, if I wanted to pursue a career with Legal Aid, what must I do?
You must have an LLB degree. And what you need to do is we have an online program where we allow the newly graduates to apply online for candidate attorney's position. If you would desire to work as a candidate attorney, you can apply online and you will be placed at any of the justice centers, any of the 64 justice centers within the country. And you need to be prepared to serve articles for 2 years and pass your board exam within that 2 years for you to be admitted as an attorney. And if you already are a qualified attorney, you would need to apply for the vacant positions that may appear from time to time at any of our justice centers in the whole country.
But does Legal Aid offer financial assistance to learners?
We do not offer financial assistance to learners, but we have an intern program internally where we're taking in interns either in law, HR, internal audit, and communication.
Now, some of our learners watching right now would like to pursue a career in law. What advice do you have for them?
You must have a zeal to help people if you want to pursue a career in law. You also must have that interest to work very hard at the same time, because law is a career that is deep in language. You must make sure that you sharpen your language, your literacy skills and your communication skills. But one thing that I would like to say to people is that lawyers don't get rich overnight. It is through hard work. Sometimes people are there not because they want to get rich, and most of the time some of us are there not because we want to get rich, but because we want to help people and we love helping people.
Ms. Mbele, thank you so much for joining us. That was really awesome.
Thank you for this opportunity.
We got to keep it moving, make sure that we take it to the top.
Before we go to the break, let's give our brain some exercise with this brain teaser. A young guy who has just started learning to drive went down a one-way street but didn't break the law. Why? Think about it. The answer coming up after this.
Keep it moving, we got to never stop.
After the break, we chat to lawyers from one of South Africa's top law firms and get the lowdown on what it takes to make it on the other, perhaps the glossier side of the industry. See you after this.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
It's happened 600 times in the last century alone. When spiraling winds gather up water masses, it's a strange storm that follows. In extraordinary times, it's your approach that matters. Nedbank Capital.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
With us now are Adam Ismail and Senzo Mbata.
Now, Adam Ismail is a director in corporate commercial law at ENS, where he has been involved in a wide range of commercial transactions and agreements. He is focused and passionate about mergers and acquisitions between companies and helping multinationals with South African investments, BEE transactions, and property development.
Yes, and Senzo Mbata is also a director at ENS, specializing in corporate litigation, alternative dispute resolution, and insurance matters. Now, he offers legal advice for both long and short-term insurance, has published articles on the subject, and has spoken widely at insurance law seminars around the country. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, would one need any special qualifications to do what you do?
Yes, definitely. You will definitely need a matric. Once you've passed matric, you will need at least, as a minimum qualification, a LLB degree. And the LLB degree is the law degree. In recent years, the LLB degree has become what is called an undergraduate degree, which means you can study it straight out of high school. In the past, though, it was what was called a postgraduate degree, which you needed another degree before you could do that. I think I graduated at the time when 2 degrees was required. But you still have the option today of doing 2 degrees. So some people feel that they want to get a bit of exposure to the arts or a bit of culture or a bit of business and then go into their law degree. Once you've got your law degree, whether it's pre or post-grad, you then, if you want to practice as an attorney at a law firm, you need to serve a practical period of 2 years of articles. And that you have to do with a law firm. The law profession is quite regulated by what's called the Law Society. So there's a registration process and it's quite strictly monitored and controlled. And only once your 2 years of training is done, do you then apply to the High Court to become admitted as an attorney. And then your journey is over. So it could take a minimum of 6 years from matric, or it could take as long as 8 years.
Now, Adam, please describe to us your journey to becoming a commercial lawyer.
I think the first thing I want to say is there's absolutely no limitations or no boxes of who can become an attorney. As long as you've passed the matric, whether you're at a private school or a public school, whether it's a formal Model C school, everyone has a fair chance. I came from a former Model C school out in Cape Town. When I passed matric, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I actually registered for dentistry.
Oh, really?
Yeah. at another university. And I spoke to a couple of people. You know, it's always good to speak to people to get a lot of perspective, people in various professions with various experience. And somebody said to me, why don't you just start off and do a Bachelor of Arts degree? So I did a BA and I majored in politics and history because I always loved history at school. And through my arts degree, I spoke to various people on campus and decided that law was something I'd like to try my hand at. Wasn't particularly passionate about it, didn't know much about it, knew absolutely nothing about corporate and commercial law. I didn't even know that there were firms in Cape Town that practiced this type of law. And then I applied to get into an LLB degree, and they only take the people with really good marks. I had to work very, very hard in my BA, get my marks up for my last 2 years, got into my LLB and felt like a fish out of water. I did not have a clue what was going on. Wow. Ready to drop out in the first year. but I was surrounded by good friends and I got some good advice, and eventually I put my head down and studied. And I think that's one of the advantages of doing a postgraduate LLB, is you can party out in your BA and then get down to the serious work when it counts. For various reasons, I excelled in my LLB, bit of personal focus, a couple of things happening. I had my first daughter while I was studying. It really focused me and shot the lights out. Got really good degrees, came in the top 10% of the class. Nice. And that opens doors for you. The minute you achieve good things, people stand up and look at you. And then all these law firms that I never heard of came to me and said, would you like to come and interview with us? And I attended many interviews and eventually ended up at the law firm that I am today.
You are a director of corporate commercial law. What kind of things do you do as part of your job?
Pearl, every day is different. You never know what's going to come through the front door. It could be meeting with somebody who needs to buy something. It could be a piece of property. It could be a business. It could be a large company. It could be a game farm or a hotel. Most days start off with meeting with clients and understanding what it is that they need, what are the various dynamics at play, then going away and coming up with a solution to give effect to what they commercially want to do, whether it's buying something or selling something or some other sort of advice. Once we've packaged what we're going to do and the client's happy with the product, we then go away, that's with my team, and we go and draft the various agreements and do legal opinions which may be needed to give effect to that.
And is it as exciting as it sounds?
Well, it's not all glitz and glamour. We do get involved in the big deals that you read about in the newspaper, although we hardly ever appear in the newspaper. And we're the workhorses behind the scenes making it happen. And at various levels, it is exciting. So, for instance, you could be involved in something that could change the economy. It could change a country, whether it be socially, it could even be politically. You could be involved in rescuing a big group that's about to go under, and many people are going to lose their jobs. So there's various exciting aspects to these matters you read about in the newspaper, but we're sort of very quietly in a corner, sitting, negotiating, approaching regulators for approvals, drafting agreements, and the like. But we do have our fun. Normally when we close off our big mega deals, there's always a big party or celebration, and there's popping of champagne bottles, and it's very fulfilling, you know, having done months and months of work, hours and hours into the night, that that something's been accomplished, that you've achieved something, and that you're part of the winning team.
Yeah. Senzo, you specialize in corporate litigation. What does that entail?
Well, I'm going to speak in general terms because it's got lots of specifics. Just generally, it entails consulting with clients, briefing and consulting with advocates, drafting lots of correspondence and receiving lots of correspondence, telephone calls, drafting lots of legal documents, doing a lot of research and doing opinion work, and giving general commercial advice to clients who are already in litigation or who anticipate getting into litigation or who are trying to avoid getting into litigation.
So, Senzo, you go to court to settle disputes between big companies. I mean, isn't that a little bit scary, a little bit frightening? Because these are big shot companies, Senzo.
I wouldn't say it's frightening. I'd say it's stressful. At the same time, very exciting. We go to court, true, but we don't argue the cases ourselves. We brief advocates who do that. We prepare the case and they argue it.
Oh, so you don't do the whole objection sustained. Objection sustained.
I don't, and nor do the advocates. Only in LA law does that happen, unfortunately. Our court process is quite formal and more conservative.
Now, Senzo, you also specialize in law relating to the insurance industry.
Yes.
Is it something that you're passionate about?
It's something I'm very passionate about, yes. I got into it by default really because I did my articles, as Adam explained earlier what articles are, at a firm which was predominantly insurance law based. And I've never looked back since. I've enjoyed it tremendously.
What made you want to be a litigator then?
I suppose given where I went to school, I didn't have access to enough information relating to other types of law, like drafting agreements and banking and finance. All I knew when I was in high school was that if you're a lawyer, you litigate, you go to court. Yeah. And that's how it all happened.
Now, you're both in the field of corporate law. How is that different to any other type of law? I'll start with you, Adam.
We focus on a specific type of client base, and that is corporate South Africa, big companies, big brands, the type of brands that you see every day around you, and making sure that every aspect of that corporate's life runs smoothly. There's various other types of law firms, so you'll get much smaller law firms where maybe you have 2 or 3 partners. You get medium-sized law firms, and they could all specialize in a host of different types of law. It could be criminal law, it could be copyright law and patent law, it could be very specific to environmental law maybe. So our entire service offering is towards the corporate market.
Mm-hmm. And Senzo, you want to add to that?
Well, litigation, I would like to believe, is the foundation of all types of law. That's where you get to learn the principles which underlie most of the legal fields. And that's where you come in as a litigator with your training. As Adam said earlier, it's good to have that grounding as a corporate commercial lawyer of litigation, because it teaches you how to avoid disputes before you even get into that. It teaches it makes you aware of potential issues that could come in the future. So I enjoy being part of that foundation.
Yeah, and what does it mean to be a partner at ENS?
There's 2 aspects to it. A law firm, like any other company, is a business, and it's got to run day to day with management and the like. So the one aspect of being a partner is being a lawyer in the true sense, giving your clients advice and helping them. The second element is trying to go out and actually market and find those clients. And the third element is the business of running a business, hiring people, doing things for the community, social upliftment, and the like. Whatever any other business would have to do. We've also got to pay bills and go through all the normal things.
And to the people watching right now and are interested in corporate or commercial law, what would you guys say to them?
I would say be passionate, be dedicated, be hardworking, and have a total work ethic. Everything else will fall into place. And that doesn't just apply to law, it applies to everything else.
I would say read as much as you can about it. The internet is much more sophisticated today than it was a couple of years ago. Use that as a resource. Go out there, Google, or use whatever search engine you can to find out as much as you can about the profession generally, but then about the profession in the locality where you want to practice, whether it's Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, or even overseas. So arm yourself with information. That's one thing I wish I had done, is just to find out more about what was this market I was getting into. And lastly is you've got to love what you do. You've got to love it, because it's tough, it's hard work, long hours, and that's the only thing that's going to get you through it. And there's no such thing as you've got to choose a career today and stick with it till you retire. Law is a springboard. It's the start of great things. Most presidents in the world today have legal backgrounds. They don't have any other background. So the minute something's not feeling right for you, follow your gut.
Now, Adam, are there any specific subjects that a learner needs to take in high school in order to pursue a career in law?
None whatsoever. There's no requirement. But you can imagine that law is a subject that's steeped in language. So I would think that learners should try and concentrate on their English and their writing skills, because that is definitely a window in to law.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Cool. Now, before the break, we wanted to know the answer to this brain teaser.
A young guy who has just started learning to drive went down a one-way street but didn't break the law. Why?
Adam Senzo, do you think you know?
One-way street didn't break the law. Why, guys? Why, gentlemen?
They don't know.
Why would he?
He was going the right way.
He was going the right way. Well, here's the answer. The answer is because he was walking. You can't possibly break the law when you're walking, right?
No, it ain't a crime.
Yeah.
It ain't a crime.
Keep it moving, make sure that we take it to the top.
With us right now is Galen Scott, a director at ENS, and Rachel Sekwane, an associate at ENS. Now, Galen Scott is a highly experienced litigator, specifically in the enforcement of intellectual property rights. The pharmaceutical field is of particular interest to her, and she's also been involved in the enforcement and protection of trademark rights in South Africa.
Next to her is Rachel Sekwane, who has also specialized in intellectual property. Her expertise spans from trademark, litigation, copyright, and domain name disagreements, and ASA advertising disputes.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Now, you're both in the field of intellectual property. I want to know from you, Rachel, what is intellectual property and why you would need lawyers to protect it?
The best way to describe what intellectual property is by mentioning that every day people come up with ideas, and you would obviously need to protect those ideas. You can only do so if you've reduced it to a material form. So the four main areas would be trademark, and there if you come up with the idea of a brand or a logo similar to the Nando's brand, then you would protect that as a trademark. If you write a book or you write a song, then the protection that you would get for that would be copyright. So the Harry Potter series, that is then protected by copyright. With designs, the protection there is in relation to the design of something, either the design of a car or the design of a pen or even a highlighter. You would register design over that, a design registration over that item. And lastly, you have patents, which is another form of intellectual property protection. And there, if you have an invention similar to, and some people don't know this, the shoes that Michael Jackson wore in one of his music videos where he leans over, he actually registered a patent for those shoes, which he invented in order to do that. Then why you would need a lawyer for that, it's basically because it is a complex field of law. You do need external advice to assist you in not only registering the protection, but also in enforcing it. So in making sure that other people don't copy it, other people don't use it without your permission. And because it is a valuable asset of either an individual or a company, that is why we would advise you to get assistance, and specifically legal assistance.
Great stuff. So who would use your services?
Our services are available to individuals or to companies. It really depends on who comes up with the idea and who wants to protect it. So if you wake up in the morning and you decide you have a song in your head and you want to record it, then you would consult a lawyer and just seek advice on how to get copyright protection. If you're a startup company and you need to know how to protect whatever products you may be creating and you want to brand them, again, you would seek assistance from an intellectual property lawyer. If you're a major company, Coca-Cola or Nedbank, any banks or whichever major company, once again, you do need assistance from an intellectual property lawyer just to find out how you can protect your intellectual property assets.
Wow. Now, Galen, you're a litigator and you specialize in the enforcement of intellectual property rights. Would you say that you spend a lot of your time in the courtroom, or are you based in the office most of the time?
I think that it's a myth that attorneys that specialize in litigation spend most of their time in the courtroom. I think that comes from watching too much LA Law and similar legal programs on TV. In fact, most of my time is spent in the office with general administration, drafting of opinions, of court documents, of file management, consulting with clients, with opponents, with advocates. Also, matters don't tend to go to court that often, purely because it's fairly costly to go to court. And also it's very time-consuming to go to court. So the vast majority of matters are resolved amicably between the parties.
Okay.
Now, you sit on the Internet Domain Name Dispute panel. I want to know, has the evolution of Internet changed intellectual property law in any way whatsoever, or the other?
The advent of the Internet has had a huge impact on intellectual property law and on the way that we practice intellectual property law. If you think of it, all of a sudden, companies are able to market and promote their products and services on the internet to a broad spectrum of people, to hundreds of thousands of people around the world. So their forms of intellectual property that Rachel mentioned earlier, for example, their brands, their copyrighted materials, are now available on the internet. So their brands will be there, their logos, even their books, downloadable music that enjoys copyright protection, that's all available on the internet. So it makes copying far easier, and it of course then involves our intervention concerning the enforcement of those rights when the copying takes place.
Yeah, and what made you want to get into intellectual property law?
I actually took a course at university during my law degree on intellectual property, and I was very interested in it. I think it's a very tangible field of law. You see brands all around you every day. Every time you go to the shops, you drive down a road, you see brands. It's very tangible. You're not dealing with somebody's, criminal matter or divorce proceedings. It's a very tangible asset. It's something in front of you, a brand that's visible every day. Specifically on the litigation side, it's very challenging and strategic.
In what way is it challenging?
I think it's intellectually very challenging. The law changes constantly, and you need to keep abreast of the changes in the law. It's also challenging in the sense of applying the law to a particular set of facts and to being able to achieve the best possible result for your client. It's challenging managing the expectations of your client. Every client thinks they're your only client and wants to win at all costs. It's also challenging from a time perspective. There are long hours involved. There's a lot of pressure involved, especially with litigation. So yes, very challenging, but also very exciting.
Yeah, can you explain to us what subjects you did in varsity to get your LLB?
Certainly. I studied a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in law and psychology. So I did a lot of the introductory law courses in my Bachelor of Arts degree. I then went on to study a Bachelor of Laws, an LLB. And there you would study more in-depth the legal subjects ranging from constitutional court issues to human rights, to criminal law, to procedural law, administrative law, and intellectual property law.
Wow, okay. Now, Rachel, you specialize in things like trademark litigation, copyrights, and domain name disputes. It all sounds very interesting and complex at the same time. So can you tell us what that entails? What do you do?
Well, a day in the life of Rachel at work would involve, I would advise clients on trademark litigation matters, and that would entail company name objections. So if a company has registered a name that incorporates a brand of a company or a client of mine, then obviously we would take action against them. It would involve trademark infringement. So that is where you have the Coca-Cola brand and somebody uses Cree-Cola also in relation to cool drinks. You would take action against them. It also involves copyright matters. So I would advise musicians who want to protect a song that they've written, or script writers that have written a script or a book. And then also with domain name disputes, somebody who has created a website, for instance, and there's a domain name that is attached to it, so ens.co.za. If they have the company and they have a website attached to it, and somebody wants to register ens.com, and also in relation to legal services, then we would advise ENS on a matter like that. So it is very complex, but it's also very interesting.
Yeah.
Sounding like a busy woman up in here. Now I want to know, was it really challenging for you to get to this point in your career?
It was challenging. I mean, the journey obviously begins from high school. So it's not, it doesn't begin in varsity. Already in high school and matric, you need to make sure that you're working hard, that you get great marks. There are a lot of people who want to be lawyers, and so it is quite a competitive environment, and you need to make sure that you excel in matric, and then with a matric exemption you would move into varsity and make sure, I mean, the LLB curriculum is set out, so you do set subjects, and I would advise students that even while they're in varsity to interact with different law firms, try and identify which law firms they would like to work at. And a lot of the law firms nowadays offer vacation work, so you can go during your holiday and, you know, shadow one of the partners or one of the attorneys there and just get an idea of what a law firm works like. In varsity, you learn a lot of the theoretical stuff, but when you get into a law firm, you actually see how that theory is put into practice. And so gaining that experience is always a good thing. And then after you finished your LLB, which once again you need to make sure that you do well in, you would then start articles at a law firm, and it is difficult to get articles. So if you have had the opportunity to do vacation work at a law firm, they're more likely to consider you when they do consider students to, you know, introduce into their law firm in order to do articles. So that is a 2-year period. It's a 2-year internship where you learn as much as you can. You know, work really hard. You put in the hours, do a lot of reading to obviously keep up with the law and the changes in the law. And you meet a lot of people as well. I mean, you've got to interact with not only people within your law firm, but also people outside your law firm, because law is a lot about relationships and people that you know and contacts, etc., because a lot of those people become your clients or they refer work to you.
Now, you mentioned vacation work. I thought, wow, free vacations, Pearl. But it's not that.
Yeah, but it all
No.
sounds so exciting, and there's so much to it. But what excites you about your job?
I think for me what excites me is definitely the fact that I get to interact with different people. So it's either the man on the street or a big corporate company, and it's not the same work every day. With intellectual property, I'll deal with trademark matters, and then I'll put down the file and I'll have a copyright matter, and then put down that file and have a domain name dispute matter. So every day is different, each matter is different. Although the principles of trademarks might be the same, you apply them differently with different trademarks, and just also meeting with clients and consulting, and also getting to understand the client's business, because obviously a bank is different to a food manufacturing company, which is different to the industry of media and communications, and somebody who's just, you know, written a song and just wants to get their first break type of thing. So it is very, very interesting, and I love it.
And what would you say are the most difficult elements of what you do?
My boss? No. Actually, it is dealing with difficult clients. Clients can be very demanding, and you need to just make sure that you manage your time and their expectations very well.
Yeah, you do a lot of mentoring as well. So what advice would you give to learners who want to pursue a career in law?
Hang in there. I mean, it is a long road. It's a 4-year LLB degree, and then it's articles, and it does feel as if, you know, it never ends. You have to write exams during your articles as well, board exams. So it is quite challenging, but hang in there and make sure you work hard, and yeah, you will reap the rewards.
Beautiful. Now, we love dramatic court cases. Have you worked on any interesting cases, and would you care to share with the viewers out there and us as well?
Well, actually, one of my favorites was we prevented Cadbury's from monopolizing the color purple and from registering it as a trademark in respect of its chocolate slabs. We all know that Cadbury's uses purple on their slabs, and they tried to register that color purple as a trademark, which would effectively prevent any competitor in the confectionery industry from making use of the color purple on any chocolate slab products. So we successfully prevented Cadbury from doing that on behalf of a client of ours.
Oh, wow. Very interesting.
It is. But I want to know from you, how would I know that I should not use the color purple?
You would ask your intellectual property attorney to conduct a search of the Trademarks Office register and to determine whether any company or entity has in fact registered the color purple as a trademark.
Do learners need like special qualifications to become intellectual property lawyers?
Apart from the law degree that you need, there are an additional 5 exams that you need to write. Those are trademarks, copyright, patents, designs, and international trademarks. So you need to write those 5 exams. It's through the Institute of Intellectual Property Law that you write those exams. And then there's another exam that you write which enables you to call yourself a trademark practitioner. It's a very difficult exam. You are tested by your peers in the industry. But yes, it's necessary in order to practice as a trademark lawyer.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
Thanks for
awesome.
having me.
Keep it moving, make sure that we take it to the top.
And finally, to complete our broadcast, we are joined by Murungwa Mogoena, who's here from the University of Johannesburg Psychological Services and Career Development Department. Now, Murungwa will run through some tools on how to choose the right career.
Now, this week she will look at a very important person. You. This segment is called Who Am I?
Murungwa girl, take it away.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
The most important question you need to ask yourself when making a career decision is, who am I? Perhaps, what am I born to do in this world? What is my purpose in life? That is very important, because when you choose a career, you look for a place where your abilities, strengths, and weaknesses can be well accommodated. Now, there are many things that we can look at when looking at who the person is or what makes up the person as a whole. A few of those that I'm going to look at today are aptitude, personality, interests, values, skills, and goals. Looking at aptitude, this refers to the strengths that the person believes he or she has. And they include things like linguistic abilities or the ability to work with languages and words, or whether the person is good with numbers, whether the person is good with other kinds of gifts such as interpersonal skills, such as music, such as dancing gifts, everything that the person believes are natural gifts that they can use within the workplace. Aptitude nowadays, when we're looking at assessing people for career decision making, we also look at the rationality or the intellectual ability to learn, your ability to learn new things, and the amount of work that you have learned and been able to pick up from your environment. Secondly, when looking at personality, we're talking about the consistent way in which a person presents him or herself to the people around. We're looking at the way you interact with your friends, family. We're looking at the way you interact with the work. We're looking at the way you understand yourself, your preferences, whether you like your life structured or flexible, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whether you prefer working on your own or among other people. Moving on to interest, we're looking at things that you always like doing, such as the kind of toys that you've liked playing with, the kind of TV programs you used to watch when you're growing up, what magazines or books you used to read, anything that interests you, that you are passionate about. For instance, who were your role models? What is it that attracted you to them? What is it that you wanted to be like? Who did you want to, imitate when you were growing up? That informs your interest. It's informed by your experiences, your background, and everything you were exposed to in your childhood. Your career has to take that into account, and if you're not passionate about what you are doing, you're not going to be confident. So it's very important that you follow a passion that accommodates, or a career that accommodates your interests. Moving on to values, here we're looking at things that you've decided are important to you, such as the amount of money that you will get from your job, such as the security that's offered by your job, such as the environment you will be working in. There are people who will compromise certain things and not others. For instance, if you feel that you can never work with adults above a certain age, you'll always be working with careers. That's a value. You need to know what is it that you're looking for from a job. What is it that you value as a person, so that you do not compromise your standards. Research has shown that if you agree, if your intellect, if your personality, your interests, and your values are in agreement, you will perform and you will achieve your best in any career you choose. The last point I want to talk about is skills and goals. By skills, we are referring to the achievements you have attained in the past. What is it that you involved yourself in high school, outside and inside of school? What is it that you learned? It could be leadership positions, it could be the ability to interact with others, it could be problem-solving skills, it could be anything that you acquired, that you learned, that you did not have initially. And skills are often improved by participating in different activities. So when looking towards going into a certain career, you need to take that into account. What is it that you've learned from primary, middle, high school, so that when you get to the tertiary institution, all of those can help you prepare yourself for the world of work. Now, by goals, we are referring to what is it that you want to attain at the end of the day in the career that you are going into. It could be a comfortable life. It could be a place where you will actualize your potential to the fullest. It could be a place where your gifts and abilities are used until you are left empty. There's a great saying that says that everybody is supposed to die empty. The graves are rich with potential because people just did not use what they have. By goals, you are deciding for yourself, this is what I'm going to do, these are the skills that I'm going to use, these are the personality qualities that will be a great resource for me, and these are the interests that will be satisfied or gratified by the passion that I have in this career. And this is the aptitude or the natural abilities to learn, or the learning that I have acquired that I will use to perform and do my best in my career. In sum, I would like to say it is very important that you remember you spend most of your time at work. You therefore need to choose a career that will not demand of you to change yourself, but rather it must suit you. You must decide that your personality, your interests, things that are important to you that cannot be changed easily, such as your character, cannot be compromised. It is an absolute necessity that you choose a career that resonates with you, because we are in an era where we are constructing careers and not fitting into them. I wish you all the best with your career decisions in the future.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
I'm certain that the information and tools that you have received today will make a positive difference to your future and your career. As you sit here today, your most valuable asset by far is your future earnings stream, and that is your choice. My final advice to you is to use this information to the best of your ability. Go out there and ask questions, contact the appropriate people, investigate your options, and never give up. You are the master of your own destiny. Like Nedbank, you too can make things happen.
Make sure that we take it to the top.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, please speak to your educator to find out about the coming week's topics, and don't forget to register and never look like this now.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back next week.
And that's the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Okay, Pro, let's just drop the case. Look forward to seeing you next week.
We got to keep it moving. Make sure that we take it to the top. We got to keep it moving. We got to never stop. We got to keep it moving. Make sure that we take it to the top. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it high. We got to keep it moving. Make sure that we take it to the top. We got to keep it moving.